Health Organization, the country's opposition says it's laughable. Rallies across Australia ahead of a controversial vote on introducing same-sex marriage.
And I'm Gavin Ramshorn. Coming up in sport today in 15 minutes' time, the Houston Astros defeat the New York Yankees to force a Game 7 of the American League Championship Series.
Hello and welcome to BBC World News. Now, Spain's central government has announced it is making the unprecedented move at transferring powers back from the semi-autonomous region of Catalonia. Let's go live to Barcelona with Tim Wilcox.
Hello and welcome to high above the Passeig de Gràcia here in central Barcelona. We have one of the most famous houses by Gaudi, the architect here behind me, but on a significant, but many would say inevitable day in modern Spanish history, because in the last few hours the Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy has declared that in fact they have invoked Article 155 after the illegal referendum, as they described it, and will have direct powers now from Madrid after has gone through the Senate. In the next couple of hours we are expecting hundreds of thousands of people here on the streets of Barcelona protesting against that direct rule from Madrid. Let's just pick up with the latest developments. This report now by Tom Burridge.
Looking relaxed in a cabinet meeting like no other, because no Spanish government has done this before. But with the authorities in Catalonia pushing to break away, Spain's Prime Minister is moving to exert direct control and limit Catalan autonomy.
We
apply Article 155 because no government of any democratic country can accept disregard for the law.
Last night, Spain's King Felipe firmly behind the Spanish government.
La España del siglo XXI.
Spain of the 21st century is a country that Catalonia is and always will be an essential part of, and we should root ourselves in loyalty and solidarity.
Catalonia is split over the question of independence, and there is anxiety over what the future will hold. But those who want independence say Madrid's tactics could backfire.
There will be peaceful protest, likely work to rule from civil servants, for example. The Catalans aren't just going to lie down and take it easily. There's no solution going this route.
But the measures announced by the Spanish government won't come thick and fast. Expect a careful, slow-running strategy to minimise the risk of making a tense situation in Catalonia even worse.
Tom Burridge reporting here in Barcelona. Let's go to Madrid now, speak to Guy Hedgecoe, our correspondent in Madrid there. It's got to go through the Senate, Guy, but this effectively is it, isn't it? The Catalan Parliament will be dissolved. There will be no role for Carles Puigdemont, the Catalan president. Madrid will take over.
Yes, that's right. And there is a feeling that this has been a very strident reading of Article 155 on the part of Mariano Rajoy, even though he has kind of tried to play down the extent of it. He said he's not suspending Catalonia's self-government, and he said that in the press conference. But I think a lot of people will be reading this differently and seeing this as exactly that he is suspending their self-government, removing Carles Puigdemont from office, removing all his regional ministers, restricting the role of the Catalan Parliament, and calling for elections sometime in the next few months. You know, these are quite strident measures, so this ball now is rolling.
Yeah, and also, how does that play out? We've got this huge demonstration planned in the next couple of hours, as I say. There's no history of violent civil disobedience here, but there will be huge numbers of people here who disagree with what Mariano Rajoy has done. How on earth will he take control? There's a local police force here of 17,000, 20,000 civil servants. How will Madrid actually get them to conform?
Well, that's a good question, and I think a lot will depend on exactly how Madrid implements all this, how it goes about the sort of nitty-gritty detail. It would seem as if it would have to put in loyal civil servants in some key positions, not just those ministerial ones, which is going to be controlling from Madrid, but elsewhere across the board in all the departments of the Catalan administration. And there are concerns about possible civil unrest. It does look as if this crisis now is perhaps moving out of the corridors of power and out onto the streets. We're going to see, obviously, that big demonstration in Barcelona this afternoon, but there's a feeling that there's probably going to be a lot more of that to come in the next few days.
Okay, Guy Hedgecoe, Madrid, thank you very much indeed. Well, as I say, we are waiting for this mass demonstration here on the streets of Barcelona. We also hear that Carles Puigdemont, the Catalan president, will be making a statement around 9 o'clock here, local time. More on the website, but we're covering obviously every development here on the streets of Barcelona on what is a significant day, the first time that an autonomous region here has had power removed and direct rule from Madrid imposed. Back to you in London.
Thank you very much. Tim Wilcox in Barcelona. Well, let's get some other stories now. Police in Germany say an attacker with a knife has injured at least 4 people in the southern city of Munich. They say the attack took place in the central Rosenheimer Platz. Police describe the attacker as a man in his 40s who fled the scene on a bicycle. A man has now been arrested, but police have not confirmed he's the knifeman. No motive has been established. None of the injuries are life-threatening. Take a look at some of the other stories now making the news. At least 53 members of the Egyptian security forces are reported to have been killed in a clash with Islamist militants in the Western Desert. The Interior Ministry says the rebels had fired on the troops as they raided their hideout in the Bahariya oasis. A number of suspected militants were also killed. The Somali government says the number of dead from last Saturday's huge truck bombing in the capital Mogadishu has risen to 358. More than 50 people are still missing. The truck exploded at a busy intersection, destroying hotels, government offices and restaurants. Officials blamed al-Shabaab militants for the attack, but so far no one has claimed responsibility. And the US has called on the Iraqi government to limit the deployment of troops in the north of the country to prevent unnecessary clashes with Kurdish forces. On Friday, Iraqi troops engaged in a 3-hour battle with Kurdish Peshmerga fighters, giving the Iraqis control of the last remaining district of Kirkuk province. That's an area rich in oil. Opinion polls in Australia suggest the country is leaning towards a yes vote on introducing same-sex marriage. Rallies are being held across the country in one last push to urge people to post their yes votes. The postal survey is voluntary and non-binding, but Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull has promised that if a majority of Australians support gay marriage, Parliament will debate it. Phil Mercer reports.
Upbeat and positive, but not complacent. The mood of the Yes campaign is cautiously optimistic, with just over 2 weeks to go until the end of Australia's postal survey on same-sex marriage.
Right to the very final hour of this campaign, we have to give it our all.
Those agitating for change have gathered in Sydney. They believe the vote is about fairness and equality. Why shouldn't all Australians be treated the same, they ask.
No other country has done it this way, but we all have to find our own way to achieve marriage equality wherever this happens. The reaction, though, in terms of turnout has been incredible. In the first few weeks, we're already up at a 75% turnout, and that's a huge response from the people. So I think the Australian people understand how important this issue is, and they recognise that this is their moment to tell the politicians to get on with their job.
There'll be other rallies over the weekend across the country, from Hobart to Alice Springs and Darwin in the Northern Territory. Opinion polls are suggesting a win for the Yes campaign. But unlike Australian elections, voting in the postal ballot isn't compulsory, so apathy could be a decisive factor. There are accusations of bigotry and bullying on both sides of the debate.
Please help us out.
The government has pleaded for it to be civil and respectful, while the Senate, Australia's upper chamber, has gone a step further. It's passed special legislation that bans intimidation and vilification.
School told my son he could wear a dress next year if he felt like it.
The Anti-Reform Coalition for Marriage hopes to convince the undecided that should same-sex couples be allowed to marry, there'd be serious consequences for children who'd be exposed to radical views on homosexuality in the classroom.
I saw so many messages on the page this morning saying, I'm on my way from Newcastle.
16 million Australians are eligible to vote. A final result is due in mid-November. Phil Mercer, BBC News, Sydney.
Donald Trump's former White House advisor Steve Bannon has made a scathing attack on George W. Bush at a Republican rally in California. Mr. Bannon was speaking after Mr. Bush had implicitly criticised Donald Trump's presidency when he warned that bigotry and falsehood were threatening American democracy. Mr. Bannon, who was fired from his White House post in August, called for Republicans to unite behind Donald Trump and said Mr. Bush had embarrassed himself.
He has no earthly idea whether he's coming or going. Just like it was when he was President of the United States. I want to apologize up front to any of the Bush folks outside in this audience, okay? Because there has not been a more destructive presidency than George Bush's.
The decision by the World Health Organization to appoint Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe as a goodwill ambassador has been met with widespread condemnation. The role is symbolic, but Mr. Mugabe will be expected to tackle non-communicable diseases like cancer and heart disease. Zimbabwe's opposition, Movement for Democratic Change, say the decision is laughable and that under his 37-year rule, the health system has all but collapsed. The UK government has also voiced their concerns, saying the appointment risked overshadowing the work undertaken globally on non-communicable diseases. In a landmark ruling 3 years ago, India's Supreme Court recognised its estimated 2 million transgender people as a third gender, stating that it is the right of every human being to choose their gender. Well, now the country's first transgender couple are planning a wedding.
Some people want to kill us. Some people say that we are mad. Some people even abuse us sexually. I'm a male to female transsexual person.
I am female to male transsexual. We are going to make a new story in the life.
It was very hard to be a person with gender dysphoria. Now I'm happy that I became who I wanted to be.
I'm getting minimum 3 to 5 calls every day. What to do, where I have to go for my hormone treatment, where to meet the doctor. There's so many questions they are asking.
When I started doing all these things, I was all alone. Like nobody was there to help me. So it was like I was laying my own path. So like if it happens with somebody else, I just wanted to help them. We just wanted to work for the betterment and welfare of the people who are having gender dysphoria. I'll be doing that, but his contribution will be there.
Who don't like caring?
Yeah, yes.
Especially female. They want pampering.